Hello, everyone, and welcome to Criterion Connection. I'm not Wade, I'm Scott.
And I'm Joe.
And today we're doing a special one because, well, I'm here. We're going to do a documentary about the times of Harvey Milk from 1984, directed by Rob Epstein. Want to make sure it was Rob and not Bob, because those are two completely different guys. Don't look up Bob.
Yeah. This is one of those like big documentaries that you'll hear about on Criterion, like because everybody talks about like Hoop Dreams and some of these other like Errol Morris features. But this one is documenting
The times of Harvey Milk?
the times of Harvey Milk.
I
I didn't want to say like the life of Harvey Milk because it doesn't really.
It's the political career.
Yeah, it follows.
Harvey Milk.
Yeah, it follows him when he becomes an activist and a politician, and then it has those like kind of quick callbacks to when he was younger.
Right. There's like brief mentions of his past before politics, before activism and stuff. Not a whole lot. Not a lot to really sink your teeth into. So if that's what you're here for a documentary like this, you are sadly going to be disappointed. But if you're more interested in like the behind the scenes of his activism and his role in the government of San Francisco, I think it was.
San Francisco.
That's where you're really going to get a lot of pretty much the meat of this documentary. Narrated by the great Harvey Firestein, which if you've seen Mrs. Doubtfire, if you've seen Independence Day.
Oh my god.
Oh my god?
Oh my god.
If you've seen those movies, you've heard that voice, you know it, and even if you didn't, you're just like, I know that voice from somewhere. And I think he does a really good job. I'm surprised how well his voice translates to narration.
I forgot there was narration at all, to be honest with you. Like, it's very seamless.
It's done really well. Like, it almost, maybe it's just me, but like when he started talking at the beginning, it didn't feel like the beginning of the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
It felt more like the beginning of like just a regular movie.
Yeah.
Like I thought we were getting the biopic. Like I was like, wait a minute, I am watching the documentary and not the Sean Penn movie Milk, right?
Yeah.
But this documentary, like we were saying, goes to, it's really like the beginning and end of his political career with people who were there with him, some who were friends and colleagues from the beginning, at least one person who was maybe I would say consider a convert, because he says throughout that he used to be very homophobic and he used to be very like bitter and stuff, and Harvey kind of like changed his mind on that.
Yeah,
So you really get and by having someone like that, I think is really important, because that shows the effect that this guy really had. That he could take someone who was so hate filled of a particular group and turn them into a supporter.
Yeah, I think like it really is a great job of showing the reach and charisma that Harvey had. That guy you were talking about, like he talks like. So what ended up happening was Harvey was becoming like involved in local politics, involved in gay rights, and wanting to have that representation in the San Francisco like city government. And he runs a couple times and like he doesn't succeed, he doesn't get elected. But then they talk about this in the documentary of how they change kind of
It was like the scope. It went
the
from
structure.
Yeah, it went from being. Was it? Correct me if I'm wrong. It went from being citywide to being district wide.
Yeah, they started making different districts, and that's where he like eventually makes his breakthrough and like gets elected in, along with
a lot of firsts for I don't know if it was for the entirety of the government, but definitely first for San Francisco's government.
Yeah, but he gets elected in, as well as another person that becomes very prominent in the story.
Not just prominent, you could really argue he's the villain of this story
In a way.
to an extent. He's the, I don't want to say the antithesis, but he's definitely the reverse of Harvey Milk in a sense.
He's very much stuck.
He's very family values oriented, very like basically think of the most stereotypical like Christian, suburban, white American views that you can think of. That's him in a nutshell. Well, everything Harvey Milk is, he's opposite. Yeah, Harvey Milk is loved. I wouldn't say he's not loved, but he doesn't have the charisma that a Harvey Milk has. And you can definitely see it on display.
And
or lack of.
I think they display him, and they don't display him as necessarily an evil person.
Not till the end.
No. What happens is, like, they talk about, like, Harvey's elected and this guy's elected, like, the same time.
Right.
In this new, like, district format, or they broke up districts differently and added them. And this guy really epitomizes, like he's part of this brand new structure, and he's part of this new version of San Francisco, but he's very much stuck in the older kind of values, the older, like trying to uphold the, like, that
the old
ceiling the ceiling on gay rights, and, like, push those people back deep into a closet, whereas Harvey is very much painted as the individual who is embodying change and progression and
right.
and even, like, collaboration, even though there's those moments where Harvey they talk about Harvey and him being steadfast and not afraid to stand up and say no or whatever. There is this depiction of Harvey of being collaborative and embracing new things and new ideas and changes. And
not only that, but, like, as far as, like, him knowing, like, okay, I know I represent this group, but I also need to think about this group and this group and this group. And it was something that he was very conscious of, that he put into it. And you show it throughout how, when he asks questions about, like, well, how does this help your demographic? And it's like, well, yeah, but I've got other people to think about. Or when he's asked after he wins, like, what does this mean for heterosexuals? Like, are you fighting for them? It's like, well, of course I'm fighting for them. I have to fight for all the people I represent.
Yeah.
And, like, it's, and that's one thing that I loved about him was I never got a sense of us versus them. It was just more, we have this idea, we have this way of life that we live, that we know to be true and not be evil, that they see that way. And our mission is to make it no longer have it be no longer stigmatized. It was not, like I said, I never felt a very anti this or this person or this group is the enemy. It was just basically like we just want to live, and which I think to this day is the end goal.
And I think, like, the great, like, there's the triumph at the end of the movie, despite Harvey's passing and the mayor. I'm like blanking on a lot of names. But the mayor and Harvey both being assassinated, there's this very, like, optimistic and a sweet moment at the end. Like, even in their deaths, there's this, like, optimism. There's this lasting change and effect they had on the city. And I think it's, like, it's really shown with the Vigil story where we have one of the interviewees talking about how they went and met up. At the certain spot. I think it was near City Hall.
I think it was City Hall.
And they're looking around. They thought they were late, and there's not anybody there, and they missed it. And then they talk about going over a couple blocks to M Street, I believe it was, or 8th Street. It was one of those. And that's the one that runs straight through. It was M Street because it goes straight through his district, which was District 8. And they go over and they see, and it's this huge,
massive people,
huge just outpouring of people on roofs, in the streets, all, like, memorializing kind of the impact and it's really interesting to have that immediate, like, having people immediately recognize the impact of an individual like he had.
I mean, it's easy to say this because we watched the documentary, so we saw all the important stuff. But in a way, it is kind of like that's amazing that they exist. But by that same token, I mean, I mean, if you just look at like everything he did, I mean, like
Mhm.
for him not to be is just unfathomable in
Well,
my opinion.
I think it's one of those, like, in that time, you
Yeah.
know, when you're somebody that has such a strong opinion and presence in those things, like, there's always going to be some sort of opposition, and it's, I think, to me, really heartwarming to see, like, that was like kind of a, you know, a demonstration of like that era's homophobia with his assassination.
And not only that, but you don't really know, like you were saying, like in the moment, you don't really know because like this voice gets silenced, and you don't know, like, is it gonna live on?
Right.
Is it completely snuffed out? Like,
Yeah.
does it do we progress? Do we stay the same? Do we go back?
That's
And in the moments, though, yeah, I mean, in hindsight, it's easy to say. You know, hindsight's 2020. Of course, we know that wasn't the case. That things moved on and evolved. But at that time, you know,
but
you don't know that.
yeah, where I was going was like when he's killed, you don't know, like, when you have a leader like that, like, you're never sure if people are actually going to come in and pick up that torch.
Right.
Or if it's going to be another blow to any sort of political movement. But, like, seeing the immediate recognition of the importance of this person, to me is like such a, it's so like optimistic and sweet and heartwarming.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, and you know, going back to the positive, you know, very big proponent of, you know, encouraging people to come out, to not hide who they are. And I fully agree with that 100%. I also think, you know, if you haven't, you should. I mean, I think, you know, you shouldn't live a lie, and I think you'll feel a lot better. And, you know, unfortunately, yeah, it could lead to some bad stuff, you know. But by that same token, I think when you open yourself up, especially in this day and age, I think you realize that, like, okay, maybe by opening yourself up, you may have lost one, you might lose a group or a person here or there, but you've opened yourself up to a much wider community that will take you in and, you know, give you that family you never thought you would have, or the family that you kind of always wanted.
Well,
and, you know, like, especially nowadays as opposed to then there's a lot of really great people out there who, you know, will accept you.
Yeah, I think in addition to that, I think it's just one of those painful reminders of like the importance of making it safe for everybody. That's kind of where it is for me, and like continuously pushing to make it safe for people.
Right. And also, I mean, just the fact that, you know, this stuff isn't that old.
No.
You know, I mean, this is all this stuff was shot in color.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean? So that we're
what, 50 years?
Yeah, like
45, 50 years?
Yeah, like all this kind of stuff. So when you see the progress that has been made and is still being made, you know, it might suck in the long run because we probably all thought by now we'd be there. You know what I mean? But when you look where we've come from to where we are now, I mean, you know, yeah, there's some evil people out there who still want to try to do something about it, and you know what? That's their problem, because I don't see no problem. I don't know what they see, but I don't see no problem. And, you know, but just knowing how far we've come and how far, you know, things have come for you know, like the LGBTQ plus community. I mean, you look at that as like kind of like a you know, almost like a reference book or something of like the beginning, theoretically, like the beginning of that kind of stuff. And you see where we've gone now, and you can't help but say, like, Harvey Milk, he may not have started it, but he definitely put that kind of activism on the map for the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah. But I guess really the last thing we should talk about is, would you recommend this documentary?
I would. I was a little nervous because I did want to make sure I knew, because I didn't know when Harvey Milk died or anything like that, so I wanted to make sure. And I mean, considering when he died and when it was made, even though it's from 1984, it's still, I mean, it's that time period. It's beginning and end. So I would definitely say for that, it's good. You know, there's nothing else you got to watch, no like additions or anything like that. As far as just a documentary, it's very well done. It's very well paced. It gets to the point. You know, I think overall it's a good experience. I think the only thing that might detract somebody is if it's whether or not like the life of Harvey Milk is something you care about, or you know, his activism and the stuff he represented. If that's something you want to watch a documentary about, this is great for you. If not, I don't see anything here that's going to change someone's opinion, but I definitely think that anybody can watch this, get something out of it, learn something, and you know what, maybe see the world in a little bit more of a positive light, even giving the horrible way, you know, his and the mayor's life ended. I still think the story is nothing but positive.
Yeah, I agree. I would recommend it. It's a very straightforward documentary, as we were talking about off camera. It's not flashy. It's not fancy. It's right to it. We're gonna use archival footage. We're gonna talk to people who knew Harvey and dealt with Harvey and worked with Harvey and get their opinions and paint a picture of this man. And, you know, find other interviews with him and really try and paint a picture of an important figure in San Francisco politics, but, you know, ultimately affected national politics as well. And I think it's well done. I think it doesn't, I don't think it like sometimes you'll see those like martyrdom kind of, like they spin everything in a positive light. I think they show Harvey, you know, pretty much, it's not going to be a full picture,
right?
But I think they do a pretty good job of showing him as he is and as he was.
It's very honest.
Yeah,
it's a very honest documentary. And I now going with that one question, I would ask you, given that it is a documentary, so there's more to it than that. Do you think this documentary accomplishes what you feel it set out to do? I personally think it did.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I would as well. I think it's a great piece of talking about, like, imagine Harvey passing away untimely, him and the mayor of San Francisco gunned down at City Hall, of all places. That's a nationwide news story. And for somebody who's over here in, I don't know, Cody, Wyoming, or in Oklahoma City, like, they may not know everything about these guys. All they know is that these three officials were involved in this, one murdering the other two. Why is this man so important? And I think this paints a great picture of why this man's so important, why he's so revered.
He got a biopic made out of it with Sean Penn, so he must have done something right.
Yeah, so I think it does accomplish that mission for sure.
Well, as I said, I 100% agree with that. But yeah, that's our thoughts on Times of Harvey Milk. You know, did you think it set out, or did what it set out to do? Do you think it was a good documentary? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Let us know if you agree or not. Happy to hear from you. Don't forget to throw out some suggestions. Also, let us know if the Harvey Milk movie with Sean Penn was any good. I'm not a big Sean Penn fan, but I'd check it out after this documentary. But yeah, so don't forget to support us any way you can. You know, like and subscribe. You know, follow us on the Instagram. We also got Butterfly Black Velvet on DVD. You can get it at minkandishproductions.square.com. Site. Our producer is telling me I said the wrong URL, but we'll put a little graphic or something in the description to tell you where you can get this. I recommend this, especially I have a great scene in this that I think you're gonna love. I dropped it. So that's gonna do it for the Criterion Connection. So until next time, I'm Scott.
And I'm still Joe.
And we'll see you later.